Just a little bit for people to maybe join us. As always, this is just an overview of what we're looking at for the week ahead. Also, since this is the first Sunday of 2026, we'll start off talking a little bit about some 2025 stats. But again, just want to give people a second. If this comes across your timeline on Facebook, or if this comes up on your YouTube, or if you get a THV 11 plus notification. So if anybody has any questions while we're chatting, I don't miss them and I can have the opportunity to answer those for you. If you're new here and you don't know who I am, I'm meteorologist Symone Thomas. We tend to do these every Sunday. Sometimes we might miss a Sunday, but the goal is every Sunday, whether or not there's severe weather expected over the next week, to just let you know what is happening, because even quiet weather is some type of weather, and we want you to be prepared for all types of weather in Central Arkansas. So we're right now at 231. I want to give it again to 232 just to make sure. I do see us up on Facebook. I see us up on YouTube. I'm also going to pull up our text line. So if people have questions, you can send them my way and we can talk about it. We do have a little bit happening in the forecast this week that we'll be discussing. So we'll get to it, like I say, right at 232. Again, you should be able to find this stream on THV 11 plus, streaming on our YouTube and on our Facebook. All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. So like I mentioned, this is the first Sunday of the new year. If you follow me on social media, I've also been talking about just the fact that this is the first weekend of the new year, and we're temperatures right around what's considered the norm for this time of year. But we're going to take a step back and look at 2025 and how that played out here in Little Rock and across Central Arkansas as far as the annual monthly average temperature and how that compared to what the normal monthly average temperature is. So as you see, 10 of our 12 months in 2025, the monthly average temperature was above what's considered the average monthly temperature. January and February were slightly below average. If you remember, we had a couple doses of winter weather last winter. We saw that big dump of snow around middle part, latter half of January, where some places saw up to a foot of snow in Central Arkansas. We had a couple rounds of wintry weather between January into February with some ice in the mix, and then some long stretches of cold temperatures. So January's average monthly temperature was 37.5, shy of the norm of 40.7. February was 45.2. This has it in blue, but it looks like that's actually just slightly, very slightly warmer than what that average monthly temperature is. So I take that back. We have 11 of our 12 months that saw above average temperatures. As you see, for the rest of the year, that recorded monthly average was higher than what the typical average is. And in regards to rainfall, for most of the year, we saw above average rainfall. Of course, April was our wettest month in 2025. If you can remember April, that's obviously during severe weather season. We started the month with some pretty significant severe weather and flooding events happening in the state between basically the 2nd and the 6th of the month. So a lot of that rainfall that we picked up on was in April. I think also, if I recall correctly, April 2025 fits somewhere in the top 4, top 5 wettest Aprils on record in Little Rock. So definitely something to note. And that was coming off of a drier than normal March for us. And then we went through the rest of the spring and into the summer and into the start of the fall with above average rainfall. And we rounded out the year, the last quarter of the year, with below average rainfall, which funny enough actually puts us in a drought right now. Our latest drought monitor will actually bring that up for you to talk about drought conditions as we start the new year, because the latest monitor came out on the 1st. So this is our current drought map. The update came out on Thursday the 1st. So typically they start developing these maps on Tuesday with all of the data we've gotten since the previous Tuesday. The maps are published then on Thursday. So as of January 1st, this is drought conditions across the state. Obviously just talking about how we rounded out 2025 with below average precipitation. We are seeing the effects of that as we start this new year. Northeast Arkansas is seeing some of the worst drought conditions right now, where we have areas of severe drought from Searcy to Batesville up towards Mountain Home and east towards Jonesboro. A good chunk of central Arkansas in that tan color, or what we call moderate drought. And then some abnormally dry conditions across some of the Arkansas River Valley in southwestern Arkansas. Those are those areas shaded in yellow. We've also been seeing increased burn bans across the state with that. So want to bring to your attention, as of today, some updated burn bans, which this map has not changed much since when you last saw it, I think Friday with Tom. Over the weekend, we tend not to get a whole lot of new burn bans, but we'll be talking about this over the days ahead because we do have some opportunity for rain in the forecast this week, but it won't be a whole lot. So right now, even though the greatest drought concern is in northeast Arkansas, most of the burn bans are in northwest Arkansas and just generally speaking, the western half of the state. We're going to start talking now about what's happening today and for the week ahead, because I wanted to give you a little context to the forecast, how we ended 2025 and how that sets us up for this first full week of January. So here's a view of what's happening outside right now across the state. Visible satellite giving you a look of the cloud cover, and then of course those numbers are current temperatures. Now, yesterday, quite a few places across the northern half of the state didn't get to make it into the 50s because we had some low level clouds hang out through the day that made it hard for temperatures to warm up. Now, what I want you to note is those clouds you see almost eroding over the southwestern part of the state. Those are a lot of those low level clouds that we start to chip away at this morning and into early afternoon, but replacing that, coming out of our northwest and expanding east into the state, are some areas of mid-level and high-level cloud cover. So if you were following any of our newscasts last night, I was talking about how we would start the morning with some glimpses of sunshine because we were going to finally be able to erode the last of those low-level clouds. But just as soon as we lose the low-level clouds, the mid-level and high-level clouds are coming to replace it. So temperatures generally are fairly close to what we saw yesterday. A few places maybe slightly cooler, some places slightly warmer. Little Rock right at the 50-degree mark, which already exceeds yesterday's high. Yesterday we only got up to 49, so getting up to 50 today is a win. That's actually right around what's considered normal for this time of year. Average high in Little Rock is 50, so pretty typical January day for Little Rock. Arkadelphia, Pine Bluff, a little bit warmer, 54 degrees. Same story in Monticello. Clinton, similar to Little Rock, 50 degrees. We've got some 40s over to our west in Mena and DeQueen. That's where we're seeing, again, some of those low-level clouds as they're trying to chip away. They're still hanging out, very stubborn in southwestern Arkansas. And then, of course, with the high-level and mid-level clouds, just pretty overcast at all levels across that portion of the state, making it harder for them to warm up compared to a place like Pine Bluff or Monticello. I want to take this view a little bit wider to show you what's happening across some of the plains to our west, the mid-south and the deep south. We've got an area of high pressure off to our east towards Tennessee and into the Ohio Valley. Off to our west in the plains, we've got an area of low pressure developing. Now, that area of low pressure, we're going to see a warm front develop ahead of it and a cold front kind of trail behind it over the coming days. And that, as that moves closer to us, is what's going to provide our next opportunity for precipitation. Right now, though, these two features as they are, and we're wedged in the middle, is giving us a little bit of a pressure gradient. The pressure gradient is a bit stronger off to our west and portions of Texas and Oklahoma and Kansas. Those white lines that you see dashed through some of those states, those are those pressure markers. So winds are a little bit breezier for that part of the state. But compared to how we started the morning, when that high pressure was a little bit closer to us, winds were calmer when we started the day. But as the day passed, passes on and that high pressure has been pushing east, we have been picking up just a little bit more of a breeze. Now, winds are not crazy right now, but we do have, again, more of a breeze than what we saw this morning. Looking at current readings here in Little Rock, at least, winds coming from the southeast around 5 to 10 miles an hour. So a little bit of a breeze, but not super gusty. Now, what you also notice is the cloud cover swinging. And as we saw with the visible image just a second ago, those mid-level and high-level clouds that I talked about was what was starting to move south and east into the state. I'm going to zoom in on Arkansas to show you something, because if you followed along with me before, I've talked about when the gray, the coloring of the cloud, if it's a darker gray, that usually indicates it's closer to the surface. Well, this is a bit of a lighter gray. That does indicate more of those mid-level or high-level kind of fluffier clouds, or even the higher level clouds, more of those wispy clouds. You can still see some of those darker low-level clouds in some of southern Arkansas, but really what's starting to consume the state are more of those mid-level and high-level clouds. Even with the breaks we've been able to see in some of central and southeastern Arkansas, still mainly cloudy out there for the state as a whole. So that's going to really keep us from warming up too much more between now and the sunset that'll be approaching in about 2 hours. So that's some of what's happening right now. I want to take you to what we're expecting through the rest of the day and into the next couple of days. Actually need to add a pause point in here for you so this doesn't run away on me. Okay, so taking this back to this afternoon, again, we've got that area low pressure developing off to the west, high pressure to the east. So we're starting to see a little bit of a breeze, more of the same through the next couple hours. Those clouds really starting to settle in across the state. I mentioned to you though that overnight into tomorrow, a warm front or some warmer air developing ahead of that low pressure, cold front trailing behind it with that colder air trailing behind this overall system. So as this approaches us, the warmer air is going to push north first, but then that cold front looks like it can make its way into some of the state Wednesday into Thursday. Now it does look like it doesn't completely make it through the state, that cold front at least, to bring a significant cool down. Temperatures only get knocked down a couple of degrees before we see a more significant front actually move through headed into next weekend, and that's what pushes us back into the 50s. I'll show you kind of the temperature profile in a second, but I just want to paint the picture for you of what's happening the next couple of days. So this is Monday. It's a Monday evening. Not much happening other than this whole system pushing east. By Tuesday morning, though, the warm sector of this system has lifted north through the state, so we're continuing to see a warming trend. Temperatures you'll see jump from the 50s today to some 70s that we're expecting by Tuesday. Winds at this point coming from the southwest, so definitely bringing that warmer air out of Texas. Here's the profile for the next couple days. We are tracking temperatures to at least get back into the 60s for your Monday. We will see a mix of clouds and sunshine, but by Tuesday, we'll see a couple places flirting with 70 degrees or getting into the lower 70s. That front that you saw, though, that cold front, does work its way at least into some of the states. Some places trend a little bit cooler for Wednesday, but really the impact on Wednesday, we'll see more cloud cover and rain chances are starting to pick up. Speaking of rain chances, here is what we're looking at for the week ahead. So even with as cloudy as it is today and into tomorrow, some of those clouds, we're going to stay dry. I do think late Wednesday night into Thursday, we could start to pick up on some rainfall. Thursday, it does look like we could see some scattered rain coverage that will start to clear out into Friday morning. Some of that hangs out into early Friday afternoon, but definitely by next weekend, we're tracking a drier pattern. Right now does not look like a huge concern for severe weather with this, but there could be a light flooding risk. I'm going to pull up that flood map for you here in a second. Let me grab that for you. And that's really just because we could see some pockets of heavy downpours lead to very low end flooding risk, marginal flood risk for some of the northern portions of the state. And we're going to play out using one of our long range models what that looks like. pulling up again the flood map for this would be Thursday. So it's really for areas primarily north of that I-40 axis, because you know I-40 slices almost halfway through the state, separating it north and east. So areas primarily north of where I-40 goes through, slices through the state, is where we'll have a very low end flood risk. Again, this is for Thursday being January 8th. And that's as we see some scattered showers develop across the state, some of which could produce some heavy downpours. The good news is it does not look like we're going to have much of a severe weather potential with this. We could see some thunderstorms produce some heavy downpours, but I don't think this is going to be a severe weather risk. So let's take you to the middle part of the week to hone in on timing and how you can plan for what we're expecting mainly Thursday into Friday, but I want to start this out at Wednesday. Much of Wednesday we're going to be tracking increased cloud cover as that front is approaching the state. Overnight into Thursday though, as that front tries to work its way into the northern half of the state, some of that rain is starting to develop. You see primarily north of where that I-40 axis is. Through the day on Thursday, it looks like that front could try to work its way south through the state, but that warm air is going to push it back north into Friday morning. Throughout the day on Friday though, we could continue to see some showers ahead of where that frontal boundary is, and then it clears out of here into Saturday as the front finally pushes out of the state and moves south and east. So that dry air moves in behind it, cutting off some of the rain, but then we will see some cooler temperatures going into the weekend. As far as how much rain we're looking to pick up with this, the projected rainfall has changed a little bit compared to yesterday. Our two long range models, of course, just run to run can show some differences. That's why we don't like to put a whole lot of emphasis into this is exactly what's going to happen, but give you an idea of the trends and how to kind of plan for the days ahead. We'll be talking more in detail as we get more high resolution information over the next couple of days. But as of today, as of this morning's information batch, it looks like the heaviest axis of rain primarily stays across areas north and east in Arkansas. It looks like slicing maybe kind of along that I-57 or I-40 corridor coming from central Arkansas to the northeast. Areas between 3/4 of an inch to maybe a little bit over an inch of rain are expected. If you're west or kind of southwest of that, likely between 2/10 of an inch to about 1/2 an inch at best. So it does look like greatest rain is going to stay north and west. This is based off of the Euro model, which is the model we just used to look at potential rainfall track. Our GFS model though, which is a different long range model that we sometimes like to refer to, keeps the greatest axis of rain north and west. So they disagree a little bit, but where they agree is that the northern half of the state likely going to pick up on a little bit more rainfall than the southern half, and that's where we see that marginal flood risk starting to play out. So if that was a lot for you, I'm going to give you an overview of the week ahead using our 7-day, and I still have this on Sunday, so let's take this to Monday to start you off on the first day of the new week. Okay. So starting you out on Monday, we're starting to get back into the 60s. Again, those clouds are starting to build back in this evening. So overnight into tomorrow, likely not going to start out as cold as how we started out today. Still going to be a cold start in the 30s, but likely more of the upper 30s compared to some lower 30s we saw this morning. Are expecting a few breaks in the clouds, at least in the afternoon. So going with a mix of clouds and sun or partly cloudy for Monday afternoon. Into Tuesday, when the warm front or warm sector of that storm system that we were just looking at moves north through the state, we get into the 70s. Could see some lower to middle 70s on the board, still tracking a mix of clouds and sunshine. Now as the cold front or the cold part of that low pressure system starts to approach the state, cloud cover increases on Wednesday. Wednesday's temperature is likely a few degrees cooler. That front makes its way about halfway through the state into Thursday. That warm air tries to fight back, so it lifts north into Friday, But Friday night into Saturday, the cold front will work its way south through the state, providing a cooler weekend next weekend where we're back in the 50s. It'll also bring some drier air though to cut off the rain. So could see rain starting to develop the farther north you are as early as late Wednesday night. Definitely think Thursday is going to be the standout day for scattered to widespread showers across the state. Still going to be a pretty mild day temperature wise in the 60s. Could likely still see some showers into Friday, but coverage going to be a little bit more limited compared to Thursday. And then as that drier air starts to sweep through next weekend, likely still in the ballpark of what's considered normal. So temperature wise, maybe similar to this weekend, but a few degrees warmer, looking to see a little bit more sunshine through the afternoon as well. But obviously that's a week out, so we'll be talking about next weekend over the days ahead. But the main bullet points you need to know as you start this first full week of January, because I know the kids are getting ready to head back to school, the parents are headed to work. Monday morning it is going to be cold. We're in the 30s. Not necessarily close to freezing type of 30s, but 30s and 40s. Definitely still want to bundle the kids up. Likely dressing in layers though, because in the afternoon we're going to see some upper 60s. Depending on what type of cloud cover hangs out into the afternoon, some places could get close to 70 degrees. Looking for more of us to get into the 70s for sure on Tuesday. Tuesday we're likely starting in the upper 40s, right around the 50-degree mark. So Tuesday, honestly, feeling more like a spring day than a January day. And then again, Wednesday, cloud cover is increasing, still fairly mild temperature wise. Thursday is the rainy day where you'll need the rain gear. Friday likely we'll still see some showers, and then into next weekend things are looking drier. If you've stuck along this far, thank you. Before I completely send it away, I just want to make sure I haven't missed any questions on any of our platforms. Okay, does not look like we have any new questions on YouTube. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything on Facebook before I send it away, because I don't want to go with anybody's questions unanswered. Okay, it does not look like I've missed any questions. So if you did not catch this in real time, these streams do live on our YouTube and our Facebook for you to come back to. If you don't feel like watching me talk about the week ahead for 25 minutes, you can join us tonight at 10. Unfortunately, we won't have a 5:30 newscast because of sports playing on CBS, but we will have our newscast tonight at 10. Following all of the games and all of the nightly programming. So I'll have another check-in of your forecast for the week ahead tonight. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Happy New Year if you haven't heard it from me already, and we'll see you again tonight at 10.